Hello everyone, it's DuckFairy07. Today we are playing Abzan of the Reliquary BREW, and Knight of the Reliquary is one of my favorite cards ever. Legacy Maverick was my first competitive deck and I really enjoy playing with this one. Okay, so we also got Wight of the Reliquary. It's a 2 mana brother, let's say, which instead of sacking creatures, sacrifices creatures to find a land, put it tapped on the field. So I would say there is two main ways to build this type of deck with Green Sun Zenith. And one is this version without Ursa Saga, and second is with Ursa Saga. Okay, so obviously Ursa Saga is a powerful land to find with both of these, but they also can be valuable in just kind of beatdown creatures that get big quick, and they can use some battle tricks and some advantage in the long game. It's kind of slow, but finding Sejiri Steppe can be pretty good in a lot of games, protecting your creature as well with being able to tutor for Sylvan Safekeeper can be really important in post-board games, trying to protect like God of Teague or Collector Offie or your Ocelot Pride, Guide of Souls, Bowmasters, whatever. Okay, so obviously, we all know these 8 white cards are very powerful, makes one of the most powerful combination in modern. Ocelot Pride plus God of Souls make a bunch of energy, but since God of Souls is my only source of gaining energy this deck, I decided against playing Static Prison. Instead, I'm playing removals like Fatal Push, which is very good right now. Abrupt Decay, I think this card also became better lately than it was in the past. Okay, a lot of targets for Decay. It's uncounterable, so it's great against Frog, against Oculus. And it's also instant speed, it kills permanents as well, so it's a solid card. Okay, so I've been really impressed with Wight of the Reliquary. I played it a lot in a few different brews, and I'm starting to think that Wight of the Reliquary is like a better Knight of the Reliquary. But this time I think I have creatures which I can sack from Ocelot Pride, from Orcish Bowmasters, but there is also a lot of creatures I don't want to sack in this build, so I decided to go with more knights in this build, so I rather just sacrifice a lance and grow it and provide some value with it, and try to make it big enough to kill the opponent as fast as possible. Okay, so I got a lot of one-offs. That is really the big thing about this deck now, being able to play 4 Green Sun Zenith. So we got Dryad Arbor, for which you can play fine for 0 mana. I got Sylvan Safekeeper and Hierarchs, great targets. Sylvan Safekeeper for 1 mana. I got Outland Liberator, Graveyard Hate in Curator, Wight of the Reliquaries in 2 mana slot, and here I got 1 of Grist, 1 of Endurance, and Knights, of course. So in the sideboard I got God of Teague, really good piece. Knight of Autumn as well, a Collector Offie, great against Opal decks, especially if you can protect it with Safekeeper or Sejiri Steppe with Wight or Knight. So Force of Figures are great again in Modern, as is Endurance, Orvar, because there was a lot of creativity for one period, so definitely card to consider, but it seems that it's kind of falling off. Meta is changing from day to day, so definitely cards to consider. We also got Totsis and Traben Charm. Traben Charm is a cool card, seeing play in Boros and Mardu energy decks, and it's kind of like it works well with Bowmasters and Ocelot Prides. Being able to be like a removal, but also Graveyard Hate. It also kills enchantments, mainly like Ursa Saga, so it can be a very versatile and useful card. Okay, so that is it. Very simple. Bunch of tutor targets for Green Sun Zenith, ways to protect them, some removal, and a small energy package here. Okay, so that is it. Let's go check out the gameplay and see how did this deck perform. Okay, so let's go match 1. I'm playing a second, and I kept a decent hand, but it's a 1-lander, but I'm playing second and I also have Hierarch, so I decided to risk it a bit. It was my first game with this deck, so I decided to risk a bit and just go with it. So I go for Hierarch and find land from the top. Then I decide to go start with Guide of Souls, then go Ocelot Pride, Sylvan Safekeeper, make 3 energy and pass the turn. So this means next turn I can start, I can protect my creatures with Safekeeper, can use Guide of Souls ability. So doing a lot of useful stuff here, and it's apparently too much for my opponent. They decided to immediately give up and consider. So yeah, I didn't even know what I was playing against. So we are not going to check the sideboarding plan for after this game, but after the next one. Okay, so here I didn't change, I think, anything, or I did change. Did change a bit. I brought in Thoughtseize. It seemed like they're playing a big mana deck, so you can't you can't miss with Thoughtseize. And okay, opponent goes for Null Drifter on turn 2, and I go like Gadok Teague, so I'm not sure what are they even playing, but they seemed like a big mana deck, so I brought in Thoughtseize plus Gadok Teague. They seemed good here, but my opponent plays Trinisphere, and yeah, unfortunately they cleared my board with Kozilek's Return there, and they got Trinisphere on the field, so my options are very limited, and they're building up mana, which means my situation is getting worse and worse. Okay, so opponent here has a 7 mana, and they go for, I think it's a Null Drifter hardcast. Yeah, it's a Null Drifter hardcast. Definitely a problem for me here, because it has Annihilator 1 and they have Trinisphere. It's kind of hard for me to sack anything. Okay, so I go for Hierarch and surveil a land on top of my library. If they don't, I have to sack a land, unfortunately. So I can't double spell next turn again. And in meantime, I did remove opponent's graveyard with Endurance, and I have a Hierarch, so attacking with Exalted, but opponent here kills my land. It's still not game over in this situation. But yeah, it's getting worse for me. An opponent plays Kozilek's Return, kills my Hierarch, but I have a land on the top, so this means I can actually cast a Knight as a 4/4 here, and with Knight I can continue to casting cards from my hand. We are both on 7. My opponent has exactly 7 damage on the field and finds removal for my Knight to finish things up here, so that was game over. Okay, so let's check out game 3. And now we are also, when I know exactly what I'm playing against, we are going to check out the sideboarding plan. Obviously, all the fatal pushes go out. And 2 Bowmasters, I decided to remove 2 of them because it's only good against a Null Drifter. I don't think they play other cards which can be Bowmaster can be useful. Okay, so here I'm starting aggressively with Ocelot Pride and Guide of Souls, a Noble Hierarch. I don't have much else at the moment, but find Green Sun Zenith from the top. That is a big top deck here. Knight of Autumn takes their Talisman of the Impulse. I get another token and more energy, which means on my turn I'll be able to play creature, get 3 energy again, and start doing more Guide of Souls abilities. My opponent is at 13, so this is like a 2-turn clock. Okay, I find Knight of the Reliquary from the top, and I decided not to play Ignoble Hierarch here in case they have Kozilek's Return. Okay, opponent goes for Rumble on their turn. I have a lot of damage on the field. I have a fetch, I can grow my Knight. So I have 3 creatures which don't die to Kozilek's Return at the moment, which makes this pretty bad position for the opponent, and they play Rumble, and I think they conceded at this point, didn't find a solution, so that was it. Okay, so yeah, that was match 1 against Eldrazi's. Got the win there against Eldrazi's, so let's check out match 2. We'll go through the wins first and then check out defeats later. Okay, so keeping a decent hand here, I decided to lead with a Hierarch. This way I take opponent's removal on Hierarch, so I have big chance my Ocelot lives. So I go with Ocelot on turn 2, plus Bajuka Bog, and my opponent goes Mox Opal, Emery. Fortunately I had Abrupt Decay to kill Emery here. So and shocked in the Overgrown Tomb for a fatal push. Okay, so I play the Safekeeper here. I'm holding double push. I have double black mana. So my opponent goes for Construct, and I use my first push there. Oh, it's also cool to just kind of disable my opponent from getting Metalcraft. So that was the reason why I decided to use a second push as well. Opponent finds Havar Might, basically no targets for Might at this point, and they go for Tamiyo, passing the turn. Okay, unfortunately only a land from the top for me. I decide to go in with everything. My opponent doesn't play much removal, so I decided to trade with Safekeeper, make another token and pass the turn. I think it was maybe better to not attack with Safekeeper. There was a chance that opponent doesn't block then, and then I'll be able to get 2 tokens from get the City Blessing, get 2 tokens from Ocelot Pride ability. But here we can see opponent has Tamiyo, finally finds Metalcraft, and they play Breach plus Station and find Lethal. Okay, so that was quick win by opponent. Hard situation against one of the strongest decks in a format right now, where I needed to find a win in the next 2 games. Okay, so in game 2 I start off with Ignoble Hierarch. I have a Zenith, I have Endurance, my opponent kills my Hierarch again. So I'm just waiting to go for Orcish Bowmaster here, and it's ideal situation to go for it. Opponent plays Preordain, so I get extra ping with Bowmaster. Opponent doesn't have a second removal, so yeah, I'm about to start attacking for more damage. That's cool. Opponent goes for a Lantern, then Mox Ember, Mox Opal plays Tamiyo. Okay, so I go in with both of my creatures. Opponent blocks Bowmaster. I go in for 1, and just both of my creatures have a flash, so I'm just waiting with Zenith in my hand and holding both Bowmaster and Endurance in case they try to go for attacks with Tamiyo. And here opponent plays Breach, and I go for Endurance in response. This was the last card in opponent's hand, so I was able to beat that. And here I go play another Bowmasters to kill this Tamiyo. Opponent blocks with Tamiyo, so I kill it with Bowmaster ping. Play Ocelot Pride. I have Lethal on board for next turn, and that is the game. Opponent concedes. Okay, so let's check out game 2. Plenty of graveyard hate in this deck. I got 2 Endurance main, I got 1 Endurance main, 2 in this side, but I also got the what is it called, the creature like Scavenging Ooze that also removes cards from the yard. Okay, so here I start with Ocelot Pride in game 3. We can see that I also boarded in Traben Charm. Traben Charm kills Ursa Saga, and it removes their graveyard, so I think it's a pretty good card against them. Here I make a weird choice. I'm still not sure in this situation. Do I rather just kill the Saga immediately, or just play Guide plus Ocelot and start making those tokens? I still think it's better to start making these creatures, start making pressure, and then kill Traben Charm. Here they can't get the tutor ability. I still kill their creature, but this way I had more pressure on the field, making more tokens and making my clock much faster. Okay, we can see that I trimmed a couple of fatal pushes, safekeepers. My opponent doesn't play much removal, couple of Knight of the Reliquaries, and that's it. One Grist. I think Grist is kind of slow for this matchup. We can see here I went for Orcish Bowmaster, got a bunch of these God of Souls abilities, and now I go in with everything. I go with everything that can attack, put counters on Guide of Souls, put counters on Ocelot Pride. That is a lot of damage. Opponent can chump one of my creatures, but not more. And I have exactly lethal here, so that is a game over and win against Grinding Breach after losing in game 1. Got the match in the end, so yeah, pretty cool games against Breach. Breach has been popular, more and more popular. It's one of the best decks to utilize Mox Opal. It's really brutal with Mox Opal. Okay, we can see me here mulliganing to 5, and I find like decent 5 cards. Okay, so I find another Grist, and yeah, because of the Grist I decided to go for Zenith here, try to find Dread Arbor, play turn 2 Grist, but my opponent has Force of Negation, and they seem like they're playing another Eldrazi deck. Okay, so I decide to go for God of Souls here and just play Bowmaster next turn. Unfortunately, this wasn't a great decision because my opponent ended up playing Null Drifter. But yeah, it is what it is. I still think that would not change much. So here I go attack with a God of Souls, not in a great situation. Opponent plays Time Warp, so they're definitely playing a deck I did not see before. And here, after Time Warp, opponent goes for Portent of Calamity. 4x equals 6, that is a lot. I was hoping they will play like Seagate Restoration so I can play another Bowmaster and basically kill them, but yeah, that did not happen. Opponent finds Dismember, kills my Guide of Souls, so but yeah, that did not help much. I did not have a great clock, just Bowmaster attacking, decided to kill their talisman and pass the turn. Okay, so here opponent plays Eugene's Labyrinth, exiles Emrakul on it, and they have a bunch of mana now, and they repeat the process. They have another Portent, and this time they find Emrakul from the top, the 15 mana one, and that is it. Okay, so opponent's deck is definitely not used to playing against something like this, but didn't see it before, but it's pretty straightforward. They're trying to win on Portent and have Time Warps and some Null Drifters, so it seems like a good matchup for me post board, where I'm bringing in Gadok Teague and Collector Offie. Great cards for this matchup. Offie stops their talismans and maybe some more stuff, and the Gadok Teague is just pretty solid. Okay, also Totsi is always great against big mana decks. Okay, so I have started off with a Hierarch, so I go for Sejiri Steppe here and play Gadok Teague. And Gadok Teague, sorry, I decided to hold Gadok Teague this turn and not to risk them having something. So I decided to go for Totsis first next turn and then play Gadok Teague, and Gadok Teague in this situation basically locks their entire deck. We can see, check out their hand, so they can play Time Warp, they can't play Kozilek's command, and yeah, that was the cards in their hands, but they also can play the Portent of Calamity and nothing else. I can also go for Green Sun Zenith into Offie next turn, locking their talismans as well, and my opponent quickly concedes here on God of Teague. Okay, so let's check out game 2. Okay, this keep was a bit risky, but I had like turn 1 Totsis, I was playing second, I had a green source, they don't really play removal, so Dread Arbor could be useful, like probably will survive turn. I think they only have like Dismember for a removal and the Kozilek's Command, of course. Okay, so opponent is now playing first, so definitely a different game. Okay, so here I go for Totsis and play Collector Offie, which locks their talismans. So they don't have a bunch of mana to go for to use Portent on. But they play it immediately and find a couple of cards, another talisman and another Null Drifter with it. Now I go a Guide of Souls and Dread Arbor and Wight of the Reliquary, get 2 energy and pass the turn. Okay, and Collector Offie is still blocking my opponent's creatures, and now I have Wight of the Reliquary active, which means I can save my creatures from removal, but unfortunately my opponent is not playing a colored removal, so Sejiri Steppe is not really doing much here. But I decided to find a Gawani Township instead. The Gawani Township can be cool with a bunch of small creatures, can become a threat over time and deal a significant amount of damage. I really liked Gawani Township in a few games, in multiple leagues I played. It was, I think, one of the most useful cards, because we have Orcish Bowmasters and you have like Ocelot Prides making cat tokens, and it's really super easy to make good use of Township. Now we have Sylvan Safekeeper, God of Teague protecting it, which is very important. That locks their Portent of Calamity and their Kozilek's Command and All is Dust. So a lot of important cards. Of course they can play something like Null Drifter, that is fine. Yeah, I'm definitely not losing to Null Drifter. I can find a way to beat that. Okay, but the biggest threat at the moment is opponent actually hard casting the Emrakul. So that is the thing I have to be careful about. Okay, so opponent was missing 1 mana last turn to cast Emrakul, so I decided to go for Bowmaster and kill one of their Eldrazi tokens, which again makes them draw another land to be able to cast Emrakul. In meantime, I'm attacking with my creatures and surveilling here, putting 2 creatures in the yard is growing my Wight of the Reliquary, so I deal 6 damage. My opponent is now on 5. I have a flyer in Guide of Souls and potentially can make another one next turn. So opponent attacks with Null Drifter here. Yeah, I think they forgot I killed their Eldrazi spawn tokens and they have 14 mana instead of 15, so they try to cast Emrakul but then figure out they're missing 1 mana, so they can do it. That was a crucial moment of this game. That was basically the only way opponent can beat me here, by hard casting the Emrakul. And yeah, they got the Emrakul, but fortunately did not have it. Okay, as I said, my opponent figures out they can't actually hardcast the Emrakul, they're missing 1 mana. So I have a bunch of creatures on the field and I can have 2 flyers for the next turn. Also I have Green Sun Zenith in hand to find a creature to trigger Guide of Souls and give flying to another creature. So here my opponent, yeah, I go for Guide of Souls. Opponent has Subtlety, and yeah, definitely I did not expect Subtlety, so Subtlety is definitely a creature which allows them to survive another turn. Even if I make another flyer, they can still block. Okay, so here now I go for Sejiri Steppe, protect my Gadok Teak, and pass the turn. Now my opponent is on 1 life. My Bowmaster dies. I mean, I sacked it to protect my Gadok Teak. So now I go for Ocelot Pride. Ocelot Pride triggers my Guide of Souls. Again, I have double flyer, but my opponent has 2 flying blockers right now. So I only go for to attack with Wight of the Reliquary. As if I attack with Guide of Souls, then my opponent can block it with Null Drifter and kill it. Okay, so I make more tokens with Ocelot Pride. My opponent is on 1, which definitely lets me have a lethal next turn. And opponent did not find a solution. Gadok Teak locks most of their cards. So that was it, and that was the match against this Dimir Eldrazi build. Okay, so that is it. Let's check out match number 4. And after this win number 4, we'll check out defeat in the end as always. Okay, so here I'm starting. Opponent plays Arena of Glory, Mishra's Bubble. I can start with Hierarch or with Gyro Souls. I decide to go with Hierarch, and if I play like Gyro Souls here, I kind of expect them to kill it, and this ended up being much better. Okay, so this seems to be like the mono red Phoenix burn build from maybe from my channel a week ago. Okay, so here I since it's a burn, I decided to just attack with Ocelot Pride to gain as much life as possible, give it Exalted, then play Wight of the Reliquary and pass the turn again. All 2 drops in my hand, which means I can't really double spell here, but it's not necessary. I'm in such a great situation. Attacking with a lot of creatures. This is basically 2 turn clock here, and in the same moment I'm gaining life with Ocelot Pride, making it super hard for opponent to do anything. And yeah, after this they concede, so that was game over. Okay, let's check out game 2. Obviously this deck is pretty good against burn style decks. Guide of Souls makes it very hard for them, and Ocelot Pride both make it very hard for them to really efficiently burn to 0. Okay, so again I start with Hierarch. Opponent has Searing Blaze and deals 3 face, and I will be forced to shock in here to play Keen-Eyed Curator. Next turn I can go for basic. But I decide to go as light on fetching and shocking as possible. So I play tapped Sejiri Steppe, play Hierarch, and pass the turn. Okay, opponent goes Seal of Fire, Bolt Face, and they have 2 cards in their hand. Sorry, I think this is just a classic burn with Bubble and probably like DRC. And here I was able to, I did not want to risk them having double bolt in hand, so I did not play Gyro Souls. I immediately went for Knight of Autumn. Didn't want to risk them having double bolt plus Seal of Fire on the field, would be lethal. So I go Zenith for Knight of Autumn. Gain 4 life, and that was too much life for opponent. And here I was able to fetch in Dread Arbor, gain life, and I have Gyro Souls on the field. I can go Endurance, and Endurance allows me to gain 1 more life. Every life is important in situations like this, but I have too much here and too much pressure on the field. An opponent concedes, they don't have enough damage, so that is game over. Okay, so quick win against a burn, and time to check out defeat, the only defeat from this league. So let's see how that went. Okay, so obviously have to mulligan this. I keep a medium hand here with Bowmaster, Decay and Zenith. It's not bad, but it's nothing really broken. Opponent goes for Sowing Mycospan here. So another Eldrazi build. I already won against 2 Eldrazi decks in this league. Okay, so I decide to go for Zenith here, get Dryad Arbor together with Orcish Bowmaster. This allows me next turn to get 3 energy, start doing the Guide of Souls ability, pressuring my opponent. Unfortunately, they have a Kozilek's command to kill my Guide of Souls and ramp them as well. Okay, so I go Hierarch and ping their Eldrazi spawn token, attack with Dryad Arbor, with Exalted, and yeah. So in this game I did not have much except for a Guide of Souls, so I was relying heavily on that and trying to gain energy to use it to pump my creatures to be little faster. Abrupt Decay is not very useful in this matchup obviously, so I don't have much use of it except for maybe killing a Talisman if they play it. Okay, so I was also missing mana here to use Township, and here I go for Wight of the Reliquary and Abrupt Decay, their Eldrazi token. I really have nothing better to use it on here. Okay, so opponent goes Kozilek's command, kills my Wight. Wight again still not spectacular in this situation. Don't have creatures in the yard, but still like finding lands here and growing it over time. It can become a relevant threat. Here I use Governing Township here, attack my opponent for 3, but my opponent finds a Kozilek Return. They don't have much as well, only Null Drifter below their Eugene's Labyrinth, only 2 cards in hand, but they find Kozilek's Return to clear my board, so I decided to concede at that point. Next turn, I would use Governing Township again. My creatures would become too large for return, and I would actually have a chance, and Null Drifter would not be that great against Bowmaster, so but the opponent finds Kozilek's Return at a good time, so that is it. Let's check out game 2. Okay, so again mulliganing here, not finding anything great. I have a decent hand here, so kind of curving out 1 drop, 2 drop, 3 drop, but it's just not that great against a hand like this from my opponents, where they play like turn 1 Eugene's Labyrinth, Talisman, and dig for Eldrazi Temple that gives them 5 mana on turn 2. So I get another land, go for Keen-Eyed Curator, start attacking with Guide of Souls, but all that is like too slow in this game. I need a discard or 2 and the bunch of small creatures with Guide of Souls to make a pressure early. Okay, so I decide to go for Knight of the Reliquary in case my opponent plays Kozilek's Return, so they don't kill my entire board, both Guide of Souls and Ocelot. So I decide to go for Knight and save Ocelot in hand. Opponent has Kozilek's command to exile my Knight and find dig from the top. And they have so much mana, double Eldrazi Temple and Eugene's Labyrinth. This means they're like 7 mana on turn 3 here. That is a lot. And yeah, they got to kill my land here. That's okay, doesn't bother me too much. I have Guide of Souls and Ocelot Pride in hand. I can continue attacking. Okay, so I go for Ocelot Pride, gain life, play Hierarch, trigger Guide of Souls again, and now in this situation I also use a Curator ability and then attack with Curator. It's my biggest creature here. It's also 4/4 from Exalted, plus giving it 2 counters and flying with Guide of Souls. That is actually 6 damage, so it's potentially lethal next turn, so my opponent has to find some solutions. And obviously Kozilek Return, that is why I wanted to use Guide of Souls ability as fast as possible. Kozilek's Return kills my board except for Curator. And unfortunately, they also had Null Drifter, which means that they get to play the Kozilek's Return, deal 2 to all my creatures, and then play Null Drifter and replay the Kozilek's Return from the yard and deal 5 to all creatures, which kills my Curator. And they also were able to sacrifice Sanctum of Eugene and find Side of 7. That's all. That was unfortunate for me here, but my opponent was on 3 life, just single card in their hand, so there was still chance. But yeah, it didn't happen. My top decks were not good enough, so I think it was fairly close game, but didn't find stuff I needed on time, and my opponent had the best thing they could have there, and I got now 3 lands from the top, so I was not able to close that game, and that was it. That was the loss from this league, and that was the entire league with Abzan Reliquary. Okay, so we've seen the entire league, we've seen Deck's ability to win against a serious decks. Protecting Galactic and Collector Offie can really be big, and also protecting Guide of Souls, Ocelot Prides, and what I was talking before, I was kind of impressed with Wight of the Reliquary in multiple builds I tried. It's a 2 mana creature, and having vigilance on this kind of creature is really important. This lets you attack, and then after attacking also use the ability on same turn, which is not the case with Knight, which is why it was used often with Scrib Ranger in Legacy Maverick. Okay, so but Wight of the Reliquary enables you to attack on the same turn and use ability, which is big. And obviously Knight of the Reliquary wasn't as good as in Legacy, and I think I wanted to try 4 Knights at first. I think after playing a couple of leagues with this build, I'm more prone to playing like 3 Wights, and either like 3 Knights or maybe like 2 Knights. It's still very tutorable, and it can get big, it can provide some value, but it's much easier to get value out of Wight of Reliquary since you can play it sooner. And I have a bunch of creatures to sack. I have Bowmaster tokens, I have Grist tokens, I have Ocelot Pride tokens, so yeah, a lot of ways to sacrifice a creature very easily and not lose much. So I think I would give a slight advantage to the Wight of the Reliquary. As I was talking before, also in the future I will try out the Ursa Saga builds. And I think Knight of the Reliquary definitely has space in this deck. But I'm not sure if it's a 4-off. I think I will be happier with the maybe like 2 Knights. Maybe like 2 Knights and 2 Wights is enough for this type of build. It doesn't have too much of utility lands to find. It has some cool ones, like especially Sejiri Steppe is pretty good. But we have 4 green suns in it, so we can find these creatures consistently. It's not super important to like play 4 of these. So I think I would be happier playing 2 Knights and using these slots for some card important in the metagame. So that can be removal, like that can be Garoktig main, that can be Collector Offy main, that can be another Endurance, another Grist, another Wight of the Reliquary, and there are a lot of options. Even like Totsis is good, a Traben Charm. There is so many options, but also we need to keep some of the more expensive creatures. There are also like 4 mana options. I don't think the 4 mana options are that great in this build. Trying to go really low and utilize a God of Souls. I don't think I want 4 mana creatures in that type of deck, but maybe like maybe they are playable as well. And okay, so that is it for today. Thank you for watching for the end. Please reminder to click like, subscribe, comment down in the video, and tell me how do you feel about this deck, and what would you change? Did you try it out already, some different version? I did not see any like really good versions. I did actually see a couple of versions online that 5-0'd at soon after unbans happened. But I didn't see any list using Guide of Souls on Ocelot Pride. I think obviously these are really strong cards, and it's kind of a pity to not play it in a build like this. There is another build of this deck utilizing Ursa Saga. I still have to build that deck myself. Try to see what are options there. Are Guide of Souls Ocelot Pride playable in that version as well, or maybe not? And I still didn't explore that option much, but I really liked this build. As I said, my change for the future would probably be trimming knight or 2 knights from this build. I know a lot of people are excited about knight, and they're not bad when you can find them with Green Sun Zenith and make it protect it with a Sylvan Safekeeper, and it can grow big. It can provide some value over time, finding surveillance, horizon canopies, Bojuka Bog, Sejiri Steppe. It has very useful finds, but I feels at least in this build without Ursa Saga, it feels too much to play it as a 4-off. I would rather have like 3/3 Wight of the Reliquary. In Ursa Saga build, maybe that is a different story. I would maybe play more knights there. Okay, so that is it for now. Again, thank you for watching and goodbye.